Alright, took a little while to get the valve cover off, but here we are. So cylinder number 6 should be at TDC. Let's see if all the valves have some lash. Exhaust. Intake. Well, that's not good. That means we didn't find the problem yet. Why is cylinder number 6 misfiring? Could it be a bad injector? It could be, but they said they swapped injectors and nothing changed. So unlikely. Let's so we can see cylinder number 4 has the fancy valve train for disabling the rocker arms. So let's see how that works. Primary rocker arm for this valve. See, there's a pin in there, so it can slide back and forth. I mean, this is crazy. And then that enables the secondary rocker arm, which pushes on the valve. So these are the two exhaust valves, and then the intakes are on one big rocker arm that's engaged by the pin right here. Okay, and it looks like the oil is fed right through the rocker arm shaft, which to me it's crazy. Like, how do they direct it to each rocker arm? There must be fancy passageways in the rocker arm shaft. Also notice, hey, there's an O-ring just hanging out right here. What is that for? I wonder. Let me pick that out carefully and put it on the side, and we'll see if maybe they forgot to install an O-ring somewhere. It's causing a pressure, you know, when the oil heats up, that's when the problem occurs in cylinder number 4 to disable it. Maybe they forgot to put an O-ring in somewhere, and it's causing like a pressure bleed from the activation channel to the deactivation channel, and that's setting the oil pressure switch high and disabling this cylinder. We didn't see that on scan data yet, but that's what happens when this thing is high. Ugh, what a mess. Guys, I just had a thought. Could that be an injector O-ring, since they said they were swapping injectors around? Does anything look suspicious? Let's lift up this fuel rail right here and see if all the O-rings are in place. That really looks like could be an injector O-ring, and if it's the one that goes between the injector and the intake manifold, would that cause a vacuum leak on cylinder number 6? It could. Well, the mystery continues. Here's the rail. We have a green, a black, and an orange injector O-ring. Now you can see these two are kind of kept in place by a little collar, like they have a groove. The orange one is just kind of on there with no groove at all, and it's like fatter. Like, this injector is missing a cap. You guys see that? It's missing the plastic cap. Would that cause any problems? No, well, not on cylinder 6. I also looked up the part that the dealer changed. So this spool valve, the whole piece online is this upper part plus this lower part. However, it looks like they only changed the upper part, because to get to the lower part you have to take the entire rocker shaft assembly off, because the rocker shafts go into the lower part. So changing this out is like 3 minutes of labor. I don't know why they charge for 3 hours or $600 or whatever, but corners were cut. The history is very questionable, but how do we... It's two separate issues, but it's all right here. I'm just curious, we're here already. Let's pop off this piece. And I just want to know what's going on behind here. is the gasket like smushed, and is the oil going from one passage to another? Is that possible? This thing's brand new, but I don't think they replaced the there's another O-ring right there. It's like a sandwich. So I got some stuff apart. Here's the spool valve that's mounted on here, and just kind of studied the passageways a little bit. So the oil feed, that's where the screen is, so oil comes up here, and then if this thing is like this, it comes over here and feeds this part of, that's the spool valve in there, as you can see. Now, when this electrical solenoid is activated, it should push this valve this way. And what happens? This passageway, instead of connecting to here, connects to over here. So this would be cylinder 4 rocker arms off, cylinder 4 normal. Again, through the little gasket, if you put it in its home like this, you can see if the oil is coming out of this passageway, we have deactivation. If it's coming out of this passageway, we have normal valve action. Okay, so then let's put this over here. So again, if we have oil pressure into this hole, then you get oil pressure in here, and I did blow through it, and you could see these little pins on the exhaust actually moved. Let me just quickly demonstrate that. All the oil is kind of out of here, but I have to use a paper towel. Again, this is I'm just learning the system to see what works and what doesn't work. But anyways, these pins actually did move, and that is what's supposed to happen in between the rocker arms. And then the other hole is for the other set, or the intake valves, which is right now under compression in terms of the valves are depressed, so that pin's not going to move. Okay, so in cases like this, we have two separate issues. It's been touched by 3, 4, shops, dealers over the years. Problems have been built in. Obviously, stuff has been changed or broken. So, how do you handle this? We have to go step by step and verify what is good and what is bad. Like, I want to flow test these injectors because they're already out. One of the tips is messed up. Is that affecting cylinder mixture? For example, if this one's a little rich, it could be taking fuel away from the other two, causing a misfire number 6. A lot of variables. So let me think of the next thing to do. So I took plugs number 4 and 5 out just to look at them. Number 5 looks nice and clean. Number 4 looks a little bit darker, and it looks like it's got some crap in there. But this is the cylinder that's deactivated, so that's probably normal. Look at that. See, it's all like a little oily and wet in there compared to number 5, which is clean as a whistle. So that could be an issue, but I do want to check the valve clearances, at least on this bank, and flow test these 3 injectors. Alright, so here's the setup to flow test these injectors. Got the rail up. I'm going to use the OTC pulsar tool. So I got that connected, and now we need to bidirectionally command the fuel pump on and the SU-R&R fuel pressure gauge. You can see this setup here, you need the proper connectors, adapters to splice into this fuel line. Now, when I took the line off, there was absolutely zero fuel in the line, which is interesting. Okay, but let's prime the pump. So press OK to operate fuel pump. Okay, we're at 57 psi, and let me just bleed the air out. Okay, so now we have an accurate fuel pressure reading. Nothing is dripping, I don't think. So we'll click OK. Okay, so now it's off. Now we can pulse the injectors one by one. So I'm just going to put a little glass jar right here. And when we click the tool, we should see the spray, and we'll watch the fuel pressure gauge right here. So we're starting about 50. Let's click it. Drop to 26. So let's try that again. Okay, drops down a little bit. Wait until it gets to 50. It is bleeding down quite a bit. So we'll call that 27 psi. So let's do the other two. Alright, we'll start at 50. Try to catch most of the mist, but I do want to see how it sprays. And click the button. This is number 5. Nice mist. About 26. Okay, let's do that one more time. Get the fuel pump on. And then turn it off. Wait until it gets down to 50. Do an accurate test. And pulse it. About 26. Okay, that's not bad. Let's go to injector number 4. So 4, 5, and 6. Here we go, injector number 4. Wait until it drops to 50. And pulse it. About 25. So it was like 27, 26, 25. Is that big enough of a difference if this one's running a little too lean? Let's do it one more time. Okay. $25. Not 26 or 27. Let's go back through the row. Go injector number 5 again. $24. Okay, so there might be a slight, variation in the test. We'll do injector number 6 again. $24. Okay, so slight little variation, not concerned about that. Injectors look fine. So let's measure some valve clearances. Start cylinder number 6, it's already a TEC compression. For exhaust, I can fit a 7 thousandths feeler gauge. It's tight on both. The spec is 12, and on the intake, it's 8. So let me write down the numbers that we currently have, and we'll set it to spec. Put it all back together, see if there's any difference. Alright, cylinder 4 is to spec, 12 on the exhaust, 8 on the intake. So on cylinder number 5, intakes are good at 8. Both exhausts are too tight at 6 and 8. They should be 12, so let me reset those. Okay, she's all back together. So the only thing we changed is loosened up the exhaust valves on 5 and 6. They were around 6 to 8 thousandths. They're supposed to be 12 to 13. That's a pretty substantial difference, but I don't know if that'll make a difference in our drivability. Only one way to find out. Let's fire it up, look at the misfire counters, and actually drive it this time, fully warm it up, and see if that, oh wow, I got a little mustache. See if the valve pause system is good, or is it going to glitch again. Alright, here we go. Still a little rough. Putting gear. Still number 6. I mean, still a little shaky. What is B misfire? 4, 5, and 6 B misfire. Is there like an emissions misfire or a... So I was afraid of this. It's not terrible. It should be a little smoother. Alright, so I'm graphing all the misfires, long and short-term fuel trims. You can see bank 2 is 0.95, that means minus 5%. Not a big deal, but there is a discrepancy between the banks. I can feel the slight misfire. If we raise the RPMs up, the fuel trims are very close together. At idle, we feel a little shake. See, bank 2 is taking away 10%, and we have the cylinder 6 misfire. It has to be compression. Let's take it for a spin. So far it's driving beautifully. Super smooth. Running on all 6 cylinders. No check engine light. Maybe the little Buddha is hiding a check engine light, I don't know. Something rubbing on the brakes. Let's get it up to highway speed and see if the cylinders deactivate or reactivate. So far it's switching between 3 and 6 cylinder mode. You can see that by the rocker arm B switch. So when the solenoid activates, the oil pressure switch responds, but it has not done 4 cylinder mode yet. So that front rocker arm has not been activated and it's still driving just fine. Transitions are seamless, you can barely feel them. So I cannot get that 4th cylinder to shut off. It's just not, it's only going 3 or 6 cylinder mode, not 4 cylinder mode. I have no idea what it would take to get into 4 cylinder mode. I don't know if we turn on the AC or something. I have no idea, but it drives smooth. So right now at idle, in gear, absolutely no shaking. Put it in park. Basically no shaking. Cylinders 4, 5, and 6, no misfires. Long-term trims about -5% on both. Short terms, yeah, bank 2's -10. Raise the RPMs up a little bit. Even right out. So that slightest misfire, number 6, I'm not too worried about it. If anything, it got better after the valve adjustment. Like right now, you wouldn't say there's anything wrong with this car whatsoever. But is it going to set that 3497 code? You just gotta keep driving, I guess. Alright, so I don't know. I can't reproduce any problems. Let's do the VTEC test. Solenoid valve activation, or VPS test. Let's try this, the whole thing. Engine should not be running. Ignition should be on. Okay. Okay. Start the engine. Okay. Keep engine between 25 and 3500 RPM. And click OK. So AB1. OK. OK. B1. OK. And solenoid AB2. ECT is too high. Oh, come on. And now we have a misfire. Ah, what the heck? Okay guys, now it tried running through those checks and we have a misfire, a dead miss right now. Let's look at live data, or let's read the code. There it is, 3497. In data stream, if we put in oil, I'm sure the solenoids are going to be commanded off, but that front oil pressure switch is going to be on. Right there, front rocker arm oil pressure switch on. Solenoids are all off. What the heck? This is what I was talking about when I did the preliminary checks off camera. I was doing that VTEC test and boom! Now you have a dead miss. You can shut that car off. You can reset it. Like if I turn the engine off, oil pressure switch turns off, yes. Turns right back on. And we have cylinder 4 is dead right now. Crazy. Okay, so I'll prove to you guys that we're definitely worried about the front oil switch. If I just unplug it, it'll say off, plug it back in, it says on. I'm just going to tap this solenoid right here and see if anything happens. No. Just tap popping it off with the engine off. See if something went bad. It's definitely cylinder number 4. If I unplug it, see, there's no change. There's no contribution to number 4 right now. So what we know is that this cylinder 4 misfire deactivation started happening only when we did the active test. The oil was hot the whole time, so I'm not worried about leaks at some gasket or some O-ring. This is strictly, this valve got commanded on and then it got stuck on. So you can unplug it, it'll stay stuck. Whatever, the oil keeps going to that rocker shaft. So let me take off just this top part, just the electrical piece. It's a little plunger, and we'll see what's going on with it. Okay, so let's just undo this valve here. Hit the floor. So here it is. This little pintle is supposed to block off that center passage, and if it doesn't, then the oil will go into that side passage and activate the big, spring-loaded valve, and then the cylinder will be deactivated. So if this spring pressure isn't enough for some reason, then once it activates, it can't close or something. Can it get stuck? Like, is this an OEM part? There's so many questions. But let's put it back on, start up the car, and see if it runs on all the cylinders. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's happy. Front rocker arm oil pressure switch is off. That's good. We can even manually energize that solenoid. Let's see. If I unplug it, what's going to happen? Ooh, limp mode. So we can't do this test with the solenoid unplugged. I think it's shut off, injectors or coils, because definitely fuel, because the oil pressure switches are still off. Wow. So it really doesn't want you to disable that system. Nice and smooth again. I guess we can let it cool down. try to do that check again. If it fails again in the same mode, and all we have to do is remove that pintle and put it back so the oil passage is blocked. It needs a new little pintle, spool valve assembly again. Did the Honda dealership go to Amazon or eBay and get a cheap aftermarket and charge the guy $300? I don't know. Anything is possible these days. I can't tell if that's an OEM part. Even by the pictures, there's no Honda markings on it. Right now, for the cylinder 4 misfire for this 3497 code, I'm suspecting a defective electric piece, that the little plunger solenoid on top of that front spool valve. Okay, so here are the codes set after messing with cylinder number 4. Clear them out. Okay. Like right now, no shaking. It's happy, when hot, at idle. Just beautiful. So until that number 4 deactivation solenoid is energized, everything's just perfect. But after it's energized, it doesn't want to close. What else could it be? It has to be a defective solenoid. That's it. Should we order another spool valve from Honda for $300? I don't know. I wish we had the old one. They probably threw it away. That's a shame. But, we have to fix the car one way or another, and that's the only way that I can figure out how to fix this car. Because, if you plug that passage, then when it does try to do 4-cylinder mode and it doesn't disable the cylinder, it's not going to be happy either. We have to make it work stock, as this car was designed at the factory. So one more test I want to do with this front spool valve. You want to do as many tests as possible to condemn the part because it's an expensive part. It's already been replaced. We want to be as sure as possible before making this call to the customer. So I have it unplugged, and we're just going to send power and ground through a 4-amp test light. Never send direct power to anything. That's my rule of thumb. If possible, just go through a high-amp test light just to be safe so nothing gets burnt up or shorted out. So the code right now is obviously the circuit, high voltage. That's to be expected. It'll probably run in limp mode, but all I'm interested in is the oil pressure switch, the rear and the front. Okay? So right now they're both off. Let me start it. They should both stay off, the front and the rear. When we energize that solenoid, even though the engine's running in limp mode, it's probably disabling, fuel to whatever cylinders. We'll energize the spool valve. That oil pressure switch should go to on instantly. And I think we should hear that cylinder will be deactivated, so the engine actually should speed up a little bit, I assume. Then when we take the power away, if everything works, the oil pressure switch should go off and the engine should go back to its former, state. Will that happen? Let's start it up. Okay, so it's in limp mode. Both switches are off. I'm going to energize that valve. You heard it click. Oil pressure switch is on. Engine sped up a little bit and off. So work that time. On, off. It seems to be working. It's not sticking. So I was hoping it would stick and that would confirm our suspicion. See, it's a hard miss, it's having a hard time turning it over. You disable the cylinder, it gets a little easier. Okay, well let's plug everything in, reset the codes, and try to do that VCT test. Alright, cleared all the codes, everything's plugged back in. Let's go to actuation test, VTEC test, VPS test, and we'll do all of them again, all in a row. Okay, please start the engine. Okay, keep the engine between 3,000 RPM. Okay. 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 One more, come on. Okay. There's solenoid AB2. Okay. So it passed. So that time it actually passed. What if we do 4-cylinder activation test? Okay. Start the engine. Okay. Raise the engine RPMs. This is on and on. On and on. Okay. Release the throttle. VPS system normal. So it passed the test. We can just do solenoid A bank 2. Click OK. So it just clicks. That's just a solenoid test with the engine off. Exit. A little inconclusive. That time it worked fine. But still, the only thing that causes this problem is a defective solenoid. When it's real nice and hot, I think that it just for some reason doesn't return back down and plug that hole for the spool valve. So that's my call. There's no other issues whatsoever. I'm going to quote the customer on that. Another genuine Honda front spool valve. Well, that horrible screeching noise. Guys, there's a washer stuck on the drum somehow, and it's rubbing against the shield. How is that possible? How is it not like... How is it stuck there? It blows my mind. Let's take this out. I guess it would have rubbed through eventually. But what is this for? Where does it go? Why is it stuck in between the shield and the brake disc? This blows my mind.